Greetings, travelers. Tonight we step away from the noise of the present to explore the last day of Pompeii. We will focus specifically on the tactile beauty of the stone streets, the warmth of the bakeries, and the administrative rhythm of a city at its absolute peak. Before we begin, settle into your space. Adjust your pillows, let your shoulders drop, and find a position of absolute comfort. You are safe here. As we prepare to leave this era behind, I invite you to share in the comments which corner of the world you are listening from and what the hour is for you right now. Now, let us take a slow breath and begin our journey into Pompeii. You are standing before the massive salt-crusted stones of the Porta Marina, the great sea gate that serves as the western entrance to the city of Pompeii. It is precisely 5 o'clock in the morning on the 24th day of August in the year 832 since the founding of Rome. The air is thick and cool, carrying a heavy mist that has drifted inland from the Bay of Naples. This moisture clings to the dark volcanic basalt of the city walls, making the stone appear almost black in the pre-dawn light. You reach out your hand and press your palm against the rough, porous surface of the wall. The stone is cold, retaining the chill of the Mediterranean night, and its texture is uneven, filled with the tiny craters of its ancient, fiery origin. You are the only person standing here in this quiet hour. The silence is profound, broken only by the rhythmic, distant shush of the sea hitting the docks below. You adjust the heavy woolen folds of your cloak, feeling the coarse weave of the fabric against your neck. You take a slow, deep breath of the air which smells of wet sand, brine, and the faint, sweet scent of mountain pine. You are here in a position of quiet authority, a municipal surveyor tasked with the final audit of the day. You feel a sense of absolute safety within the shadow of these immense fortifications. The world outside is a grey-blue haze, but the gate before you represents the threshold of a world that is vibrant, organized, and remarkably alive. You wait for the sound of the morning watch, your eyes fixed on the heavy oak timbers of the gate, feeling the stillness of the earth beneath your sandaled feet. The silence is suddenly interrupted by the heavy, rhythmic thud of a wooden beam being slid back into its housing. You listen as the iron bolts are turned, a sound that is sharp and metallic, echoing through the vaulted stone tunnel of the gateway. The two massive doors of the Porta Marina, reinforced with iron bands, begin to groan as they are pushed open by the gatekeepers. You watch as the gap between the doors widens, revealing the steep, paved incline that leads up into the heart of the city. The sound of the wood scraping against the stone floor is a deep, resonant rasp that vibrates through the soles of your shoes. As the gates settle into their open position, a soft breeze carries the first scents of the city toward you. The smell of wood smoke from the early hearths and the aroma of freshly baked bread from the nearby ovens. You move forward, stepping from the soft sand of the coastal road onto the hard, polished basalt blocks of the street. These stones have been worn smooth by centuries of traffic, and you notice the deep, parallel ruts carved into the rock by the wheels of countless carts. You walk with a slow and deliberate pace, feeling the stability of the engineering that surrounds you. The incline is steep, requiring a rhythmic effort from your muscles, but you find a sense of peace in the physical exertion. The stone walls of the houses on either side of the street are covered in a smooth, pale plaster, and you reach out to touch one as you pass. It feels cool and slightly damp from the morning mist. You are moving into a sanctuary of human order, a place where every stone has been placed with purpose, and you find a sense of quiet comfort in the predictability of the city's awakening. As you reach the top of the incline, you hear the first sounds of commerce approaching from the direction of the river. A train of pack mules and small two-wheeled carts is making its way up from the docks of the Sarno, carrying the daily supply of garum, the fermented fish sauce that is the pride of Pompeii. You step into a shallow alcove to allow them to pass, observing the rhythmic swaying of the animals and the steady clatter of their hooves on the basalt. The carts are loaded with terracotta amphorae, their long tapered bodies nestled in beds of straw to prevent them from breaking. The smell of the sea is stronger now, mixed with the sharp, pungent aroma of the salted fish as it wafts from the sealed jars. You notice the texture of the clay, which is a warm, earthy red, and the way the morning light catches the crystalline salt that has crusted around the stoppers. It is exactly 6 o'clock now, and the sky is beginning to turn a soft, pale lavender. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the repetition of this morning ritual, a process that has occurred every day for hundreds of years. You reach for your administrative satchel, feeling the smooth, oiled leather of the strap. Inside, you have the tools of your trade, a set of wax tablets, a bronze stylus, and the wooden cargo manifests that require your attention. You find a sense of soft companionship in the presence of the workers, who nod to you in silence as they move past. The air inside the city is becoming warmer, losing the sharp bite of the sea mist, and you feel a sense of profound and quiet safety in the mechanical rhythm of the delivery. The city is preparing to feed itself, and you are the witness to its appetite. You settle yourself on a stone bench near the intersection of the Via Marina and the Vico dei Soprastanti, pulling a heavy, wooden-framed wax tablet from your satchel. It is time for your first administrative task, the verification of the incoming fish sauce shipment. You take up your bronze stylus, feeling the weight and balance of the cold metal in your fingers. The wax of the tablet is a deep, dark green, and it is perfectly smooth, waiting for your mark. You begin to review the wooden cargo manifest that was handed to you by the lead driver. You move your eyes slowly across the Latin script, which has been inked onto thin sheets of limewood. You are looking for the exact count of the large amphorae, which should number 42 for this specific merchant. You begin to count the jars as they are unloaded into a nearby warehouse, your stylus making a soft, rhythmic scratching sound as you record the tally in the wax. 1 jar, 2 jars, 3 jars. You focus entirely on the motion of your hand, the pressure of the stylus, and the clean, straight lines of the numerals. It is a repetitive and grounding task, one that clears your mind of all other thoughts. The world outside this intersection is irrelevant. There is only the wood of the tablet, the smell of the wax, and the steady arrival of the terracotta jars. You find a sense of professional pride in the accuracy of your record, a small bubble of human order in the middle of the morning bustle. The sound of the city is growing louder now, the voices of neighbors greeting each other, the splashing of the nearby fountain, but you remain focused on your audit. You complete the tally, finding exactly 42 marks in the green wax, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you smooth over a small error with the flat end of the stylus. With the manifest verified, you stand and replace the tablets in your satchel, tightening the leather cord with a rhythmic and familiar motion. The sun has finally cleared the horizon, and the first rays of brilliant golden light are striking the white marble columns of the Temple of Venus nearby. The transformation of the city is remarkable. The dark, black basalt of the streets now reflects a shimmering, silvery radiance, and the shadows of the buildings are long and sharp. You begin to walk further into the city, moving toward the Forum, and you find yourself observing the small, domestic details of the morning. You notice a woman leaning from a second-story window to shake out a woolen rug, the dust motes dancing in the shafts of light. You see a young boy filling a bronze bucket at a street-side fountain, the water spilling over the edge and creates a dark, wet patch on the stone. These are the textures of a world at peace, a world that is unaware of anything other than the immediate requirements of the day. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace as you walk, the sound of your own footsteps providing a steady heartbeat to your transit. The air is now warm and fragrant, carrying the scent of blooming oleander from a hidden courtyard. You take a final look back toward the Porta Marina, seeing the gates standing wide and welcoming, and you realize that you have successfully entered the sanctuary of the city. The inner life of your mission is one of absolute stillness, a quiet decision to embrace the beauty of the mundane. You take a slow, deep breath of the warming air, feeling the structural strength of the city all around you, and you prepare to move into the heat and the grain of the local bakeries. You turn from the main thoroughfare and move into the heavy, industrious atmosphere of the Bakery of Modestus. It is now 7 o'clock in the morning, and the heat of the rising sun is being rapidly overtaken by the intense, radiant warmth of the industrial ovens. As you step across the threshold, the first thing you notice is the sound, a deep, rhythmic grinding that seems to vibrate through the very stones of the floor. In the center of the courtyard, several large mills, crafted from dark, porous volcanic lava stone, are in constant motion. You observe the elegant and functional design of the meta, the stationary conical base, and the catillus, the hourglass-shaped upper stone that rotates upon it. Small, sturdy donkeys, their eyes hooded to prevent dizziness, move in a slow and tireless circle, tethered to wooden beams. You reach out a hand and touch the surface of a mill that is currently at rest. The lava stone is rough and abrasive, designed to tear the grain into fine powder with relentless efficiency. You feel the residual warmth of the friction within the stone, a heat that speaks of hours of labor already completed. The smell here is overwhelming and comforting. The dry, earthy scent of pulverized wheat mixed with the warm musk of the working animals. You are a solitary figure of observation in this space of productivity, yet you feel a profound sense of safety within these thick, heat-retaining walls. You adjust your administrative satchel, the leather feeling warm against your hip, and you prepare to move deeper into the heart of the grain. The air in this corner of the bakery is thick with a fine, chalky suspension, a white veil of flour that dances in the shafts of light streaming through the high, narrow windows. You watch as a worker rhythmically shakes a large linen sieve, separating the fine flour from the coarser bran. The motion is steady and hypnotic, a lateral swaying that creates a soft hushing sound like the retreat of a wave over sand. You move closer, and you notice how the flour has settled upon every surface. The wooden tables, the terracotta jars, and even the dark hair of the laborers. You look down at your own hands and see that a thin, ghostly layer of white dust has coated your skin. You rub your thumb and forefinger together, feeling the incredible silkiness of the wheat, a texture that is both soft and strangely dry. It is 7 hours and 30 minutes into the day, and the production of the morning bread has reached its peak. You find a sense of quiet fascination in this stage of the process, the transformation of raw grain into the foundational substance of the city. You take a slow, deep breath, and although the air is heavy with dust, it carries the sweet, wholesome promise of the coming loaves. You find a sense of rhythmic peace in the workers' movements, a realization that this labor is as ancient and predictable as the tides. You take a moment to wipe your spectacles with the clean corner of your cloak, the fabric pulling away the white dust to reveal the sharp, vibrant reality of the bakery once more. You move toward a long wooden bench where the dough has been divided into individual rounds, ready for the final preparation before entering the oven. It is time for your primary administrative task of the morning. You reach into your satchel and withdraw a heavy, circular stamp carved from seasoned olive wood. The handle is smooth and polished from years of use, fitting perfectly into the palm of your hand. This is the mark of the city, the official seal that verifies the weight and origin of the bread. You are tasked with marking and counting exactly 81 loaves of the panis quadratus, the signature bread of Pompeii. You lean over the table and begin the work. You press the wooden stamp into the center of the soft, yielding dough, feeling the elastic resistance of the wheat. With a small, sharp knife, you then score the loaf into 8 symmetrical wedges, a rhythmic process that requires a steady and clinical hand. 1 loaf, 2 loaves, 3 loaves. You repeat the motion 81 times, the wooden stamp making a soft, suction-like sound as it pulls away from the dough. You focus entirely on the symmetry of the scores and the clarity of the seal. The repetition of the task is a sanctuary for your mind, a way to anchor yourself in the physical reality of the city. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the order of the tally, a feeling that as long as the bread is counted and marked, the world remains in its proper alignment. You complete the 81st loaf, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you return the stamp to your bag. The center of the bakery is dominated by the massive vaulted brick oven, its wide mouth glowing with the fierce orange intensity of a wood fire. You watch as the head baker, his skin glistening with sweat, uses a long-handled wooden peel to slide the prepared loaves into the dark, heated interior. The sound of the wood sliding across the stone floor of the oven is a crisp, dry rasp. As the door is momentarily opened, a wave of intense heat washes over you, carrying the potent and intoxicating aroma of toasted grain, wood smoke, and active yeast. It is a scent that represents the very lifeblood of Pompeii, a fragrance of survival and abundance. You observe the structural strength of the oven, the thick layers of red brick and volcanic mortar designed to withstand temperatures that would melt lesser materials. You find a sense of quiet comfort in this controlled fire, a realization that the destructive power of heat has been tamed here for the benefit of the people. You move to a safe distance, feeling the warmth soaking into your bones and easing the last of the morning's lingering chill. The soundscape is filled with the crackle of the burning olive wood and the muffled shouts of the workers, a complex symphony of industry that feels both chaotic and perfectly coordinated. You take a slow, deep breath of the hot, fragrant air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of Roman history in the very smell of the bread. You are safe, you are still, and you are a witness to the peak of the baker's art. By 8 hours and 30 minutes in the morning, the first batches of the panis quadratus are being pulled from the oven, their crusts a deep golden brown, and their surfaces dusted with a fine layer of ash. You stand by the cooling racks, watching as the heat rises from the bread in shimmering waves. You reach out a hand, not to touch, but to feel the radiant energy of the fresh loaves. The air around the racks is thick with the sound of the crusts singing, a delicate crystalline crackling as the bread cools and contracts. It is a melodic and satisfying sound that signals the successful completion of the morning's labor. You take up your wax tablet and record the final count, confirming that the 81 loaves are accounted for and meet the municipal standards for weight and quality. Your audit of the bakery is complete. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that comes from seeing a vital task performed with such precision. The inner life of the bakery begins to slow as the primary baking is finished and the workers begin the process of cleaning the flour-dusted tables. You take a final look at the glowing embers of the oven, feeling a sense of soft companionship with the men who feed the city. You adjust your cloak, now smelling faintly of wood smoke and toasted wheat, and prepare to leave the warmth of the bakery for the open, sun-drenched marble of the Forum. The transition is a quiet decision to move from the industrious heat toward the political heart of Pompeii. As the day continues its steady and majestic progression, you emerge from the narrow, shaded streets of the bakery district and step into the vast, blindingly white expanse of the Forum. It is now exactly 9 o'clock in the morning. The transition from the dim, amber warmth of the ovens to the open brilliance of the marble square is a sudden shock to your senses. You feel the intense heat of the sun reflecting off the polished travertine paving stones, a white radiance that seems to saturate the very air you breathe. You stop for a moment at the edge of the plaza to allow your eyes to adjust to the glare, resting your hand on the side of a cool white marble pedestal. The texture of the marble is incredibly smooth and crystalline, providing a sharp and refreshing contrast to the rough, abrasive volcanic stone you have just left behind in the bakery. You are standing at the civic and religious heart of Pompeii, a massive rectangular plaza measuring approximately 142 meters in length and 38 meters in width. The space is framed by elegant two-story colonnades of white stone, their long vertical shadows creating a rhythmic and orderly pattern across the ground. You hear the distant, melodic chime of a bronze bell from a nearby shrine, marking the formal beginning of the city's official business day. The air here is dry and carries the scent of fine dust, sun-warmed stone, and the faint herbal fragrance of wild rosemary drifting in from the surrounding hillsides. You find a sense of absolute safety in the geometric perfection of the Forum, a place where the laws and traditions of Rome are carved into the very architecture of the city. You adjust the leather strap of your administrative satchel and begin your slow, deliberate walk across the open plaza, feeling the solid, immovable weight of the history that surrounds you. Every stone under your sandaled feet has been placed with a rhythmic precision that induces a feeling of deep and lasting stability. You move toward the southern end of the Forum, where the immense structure of the basilica looms over the square. You stand at the threshold of this great hall, the center of law and justice for the city of Pompeii. The acoustics inside are vast and echoing, catching the low murmur of legal arguments and the rhythmic tapping of sandaled feet on the stone floor. You observe the massive columns of brick and plaster that support the high roof, their surfaces covered in centuries of scratched graffiti, official notices, and the names of citizens long since passed. The air inside the basilica is noticeably cooler than the plaza outside, providing a welcome relief from the growing heat of the morning sun. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the complexity of the legal system, the way that words and documents are used to maintain the order and the peace of the city. You take a moment to observe a group of citizens gathered around a magistrate, their voices low, serious, and measured. You do not intervene in their business. You are a solitary observer, a surveyor of the city's health and its structural integrity. You reach into your satchel and touch the smooth surface of your wax tablets, feeling the physical presence of your own records. The soundscape is a complex symphony of human activity. The rustle of parchment, the soft clicking of counting stones, and the distant, melodic calls of vendors from the plaza outside. You feel a sense of profound and quiet safety in the existence of these institutions, a realization that the city is protected by its own rules and its shared traditions. You take a slow, deep breath of the cooler air, feeling the weight of the basilica's authority as a stabilizing force in your morning journey. Leaving the cool, shadowed halls of the basilica, you walk across the open plaza toward the northern end where the Temple of Jupiter stands atop its high stone podium. You stop at the base of the massive stairs, observing the 6 Corinthian columns that frame the entrance to the inner sanctuary. The air here is rich and heavy with the scent of burning incense, a sweet, resinous aroma of frankincense and myrrh that drifts down from the high altar. You watch as a priest in a white woolen toga performs a silent ritual, the blue smoke of the incense rising in a straight, steady line toward the clear and cloudless sky. The heat of the sun is now quite intense, and you feel the warmth radiating from the stone steps beneath your feet as you stand in contemplation. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic peace in the sight of the temple, a place of connection between the daily life of the city and the eternal heavens. You take a slow, deep breath of the fragrant air, feeling it expand in your lungs and ground you in the present moment. You notice the intricate high-fidelity carvings on the marble frieze, the figures of gods and heroes frozen in their eternal silent poses. The world of the Forum is a world of absolute, sun-drenched permanence, and you feel a sense of soft companionship with the stone itself. You take a final look at the white, stationary clouds gathering over the distant peak of the mountain, and you turn your attention back to the mundane, rhythmic requirements of your audit. The sanctuary of the temple provides a moment of spiritual stillness before you return to the mechanical tasks of the day, and you find a sense of safety in the divine order that oversees the city. You approach a low, rectangular stone table situated on the western side of the Forum, known to all citizens as the Mensa Ponderaria. It is now exactly 10 o'clock, and it is time for your primary administrative task of the morning watch, the verification of the city's standard liquid measures. You are tasked with checking the accuracy of the sextarius, which is the foundational unit for the sale of wine and oil in the local markets. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a small, polished bronze vessel that has been carefully calibrated to the imperial standard of Rome. The metal is heavy and cold in your hands, its surface reflecting the brilliant morning sunlight with a golden hue. You place your bronze vessel into the circular, bowl-shaped cavities that have been carved directly into the heavy stone of the table, checking for a perfect and seamless fit between the metal and the rock. One cavity, two cavities, three cavities. You repeat this process for each of the 5 standard measures, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. You focus entirely on the dull, metallic sound of the bronze hitting the stone and the tactile sensation of the vessel sliding into its designated place. The accuracy of these measures is essential for the fairness of the city's commerce, and you find a sense of professional pride in the precision of your work. You take up your stylus and record the results on your wax tablet, the rhythmic scratching of the bronze nib providing a grounding noise in the middle of the bustling plaza. The world of the market continues to pulse around you, the exchange of bronze coins, the bartering of goods, but you remain focused on the silent stone table. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the reliability of these measurements, a feeling that as long as the weights are true, the city of Pompeii remains in its proper and intended alignment. By 10 o'clock and 30 minutes in the morning, your audit of the forum is nearly complete. You stand by the Mensa Ponderaria, looking out across the bustling square one final time before moving on to your next station. The energy of the city has reached a state of vibrant, mid-morning equilibrium. You see the vendors setting up their colorful stalls, the magistrates moving between the official offices with purpose, and the children playing in the long shadows of the colonnades. It is a world of absolute high-fidelity beauty where every person and every object has its designated and meaningful place. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that comes from seeing the heart of the city functioning with such mechanical and social precision. The air is now quite hot, and you feel the weight of your woolen cloak against your shoulders, but you do not mind the burden. You take a final look at the great marble arch that marks the exit from the forum, feeling a sense of soft companionship with the citizens of Pompeii as they go about their daily lives. You adjust your administrative satchel, ensuring that your wax records are secure and protected from the sun, and you prepare to leave the open brilliance of the plaza for the industrial, humid atmosphere of the local foolery. The transition is a quiet decision to move from the political center toward the physical labor of the city as the day continues its steady and majestic progression toward the afternoon. You take one last, slow, deep breath of the air, which now smells of limestone dust and sun-baked marble, and you begin your walk toward the foolery of Stephanus, feeling the rhythmic strength of the stones beneath your feet. You move away from the open brilliance of the forum and descend into the narrow, winding corridors of the Via dell'Abbondanza, heading toward the industrial heart of the city. It is now exactly 11 o'clock in the morning. As you approach the heavy wooden doors of the foolery of Stephanus, the transition in the atmosphere is immediate and sharp. The dry, dusty scent of the marble plaza is replaced by a heavy, humid vapor that carries a distinct ammonia-like tang. This is the scent of the fuller's trade, the sharp smell of fermented urine and alkaline clay used to strip the oils from the raw wool. You step across the threshold into the large central atrium, and you feel the temperature drop as the damp, thick air of the workshop surrounds you. The walls here are coated in a fine, moist condensation, and the floor is made of a dark, non-slip volcanic mortar that feels cool and gritty beneath your sandals. You hear the rhythmic, heavy splashing of water hitting stone, a sound that is constant and echoing throughout the building. You are a solitary observer in this world of steam and industry, protected by the thick masonry of the workshop walls. You find a sense of quiet comfort in the specialized nature of this work, a realization that every citizen of Pompeii depends upon the labor occurring within these rooms. You take a slow, deep breath, and although the air is pungent, it is filled with the honest, productive energy of the city. You adjust your administrative satchel, feeling the weight of your records, and you prepare to witness the rhythmic labor of the fullers as they begin the midday cleaning. In the rear of the foolery, you observe the workers engaged in the traditional fuller's dance within deep terracotta-lined pits. This is the core of the industrial process, a rhythmic and grueling task that requires absolute physical consistency. Each worker stands knee-deep in a mixture of water and cleaning agents, their bare feet moving in a slow, steady treading motion to agitate the heavy woolen robes. You watch as they lift one foot and then the other, their movements synchronized and mechanical, creating a deep, resonant thudding sound that vibrates through the floor. The water is thick and opaque, swirling with the grey clay and the natural oils being extracted from the fabric. You reach out and touch the edge of one of the terracotta tubs. The ceramic is cool and smooth, but it is covered in a slick, soapy residue that makes it feel almost like polished glass. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the repetition of this motion, a cycle of labor that has remained unchanged for generations. It is now 11 hours and 30 minutes into the day, and the humid warmth of the workspace has become a constant, enveloping presence. You take a moment to observe the steady rising and falling of the workers' shoulders, a human heartbeat in the middle of the factory. There is a profound sense of safety in this coordinated effort, a feeling that the city is being cleansed and renewed through this rhythmic labor. You find yourself breathing in time with the splashing water, your mind settling into the steady mechanical pulse of the fuller's dance. The process moves from the treading pits to the large central impluvium, a shallow stone pool where the robes are thoroughly rinsed to remove the cleaning agents. You watch as the workers lift the heavy, sodden garments and plunge them into the clear, cool water. The sound is a series of loud, refreshing splashes, followed by the rhythmic, straining noise of the fabric being wrung out by hand. You move closer to the water's edge, and you notice the way the light from the sky opening above reflects off the surface of the pool, creating dancing, silvery ripples on the ceiling. The air here is fresher, carrying the clean, neutral scent of filtered rainwater and the faint aroma of damp wool. You reach down and dip your fingers into the water. It is surprisingly cold, providing a sharp and revitalizing contrast to the humid air of the workrooms. You feel the texture of the wet wool as a worker passes a robe near you. It is dense, heavy, and remarkably soft, the fibers having been meticulously opened and cleaned. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic peace in the sight of the water flowing and the fabric being transformed. It is exactly 12 o'clock now, and the sun is directly overhead, casting a brilliant shaft of light into the center of the pool. You are safe in this shaded courtyard, a witness to the mechanical perfection of the rinsing cycle. You take a slow, deep breath of the damp, cool air, feeling the stability of the stone basins and the permanence of the city's water supply. It is now time for your primary administrative task within the fullery, the inspection of the high-value inventory. You move toward a series of long wooden tables where several robes dyed in Tyrian purple have been laid out for your review. These are the garments of the city's magistrates, and their quality must be verified before they are returned to their owners. You reach into your satchel and withdraw your wax tablet, and you prepare to record the condition of exactly 12 of these purple tunics. You take up a robe and run your hands across the fabric. The texture is exquisite, a deep, velvety softness that speaks of the highest quality wool. The color is a rich, saturated violet that seems to shift and glow in the soft light of the workshop. You check for the uniformity of the dye, the strength of the seams, and the cleanliness of the fibers. 1 tunic, 2 tunics, 3 tunics. You repeat this inspection 12 times, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. You focus entirely on the tactile sensation of the wool and the deep royal hue of the pigment. The world outside the fullery is a distant murmur. Here, there is only the weight of the fabric and the precision of your audit. You find a sense of professional pride in the perfection of these garments, a realization that your record is a testament to the city's excellence. You complete the 12th inspection, finding no flaws in the color or the weave, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you mark the final tally in the green wax. By 12 o'clock and 30 minutes in the afternoon, your audit of the fullery of Stephanus is coming to a close. You move to the drying area, where the cleaned robes have been stretched over large wicker frames known as vimina. Underneath these frames, small pots of sulfur are being burned, the white fumes rising slowly to bleach the white wool and brighten the colors of the dyed garments. The scent here is sharp and metallic, a dry, stinging smell that marks the final stage of the cleaning process. You watch as the workers move between the frames, adjusting the fabric with a rhythmic and practiced grace. The transition of the city is becoming apparent now. The air is reaching its peak heat, and the light is beginning to take on a golden afternoon quality. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that comes from seeing the industrial heart of Pompeii operating with such mechanical precision. You take a final look at the fuller's dance occurring in the distance, the steady thudding of feet providing a constant heartbeat to the building. You adjust your woolen cloak, which now carries the faint, complex aroma of the fullery, a mixture of steam, sulfur, and clean wool. You prepare to leave the humid workshop for the engineering heights of the Aqua Augusta. The transition is a quiet decision to move from the labor of the people toward the mastery of the water as the day continues its steady and majestic progression. You take one last slow, deep breath of the thick air, feeling the structural strength of the terracotta walls, and you begin your walk toward the city's high water tower. You climb the steep, narrow lane of the Via del Vesuvio, moving toward the highest point of the city where the Aqua Augusta terminates. It is now 12 o'clock and 30 minutes in the afternoon. The sun is at its absolute zenith, casting almost no shadows upon the polished basalt stones of the street. You feel the radiant heat of the Mediterranean sun upon your shoulders, a heavy and persistent warmth that makes the air shimmer above the terracotta rooftops. As you reach the northern gate, the Porta Vesuvio, you stand before the Castellum Aquae, the great water distribution tower that serves as the heart of the city's hydraulic system. This building is a masterpiece of Roman engineering, a sturdy circular structure made of thick brick and volcanic concrete. You reach out and place your hand upon the exterior wall. The brick is hot to the touch, having absorbed the full intensity of the midday light. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the height of this location, observing how the city of Pompeii slopes gently away toward the sea. The air here is thin and remarkably clear, carrying the scent of dry grass and the faint mineral aroma of the volcanic soil. You are a solitary figure at the summit of the town, protected by the massive walls of the tower. You take a slow, deep breath, and you prepare to enter the cool, shadowed interior of the distribution center. You adjust your administrative satchel, feeling the weight of the bronze tools and the wax tablets against your side. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the elevation, a realization that the water you are about to inspect is the lifeblood that flows downward to every house, fountain, and bath. You step through the narrow stone doorway and into the dark, vaulted chamber of the Castellum Aquae. The transition is immediate and startling. The blinding white heat of the afternoon vanishes, replaced by a deep, damp chill that seems to emanate from the very earth. You hear the sound, a constant, powerful, and resonant roar of rushing water that fills the entire space. It is a melodic and rhythmic vibration that you can feel in the floor beneath your sandals. Before you lies the great circular basin where the water from the mountain aqueduct arrives, surging with a relentless energy. The water is crystalline and cold, having traveled many miles through underground channels to reach this point. You observe the three main divisions of the basin, where the water is diverted into separate channels for the public fountains, the public baths, and the private villas of the wealthy. The air inside the chamber is thick with a fine, cool mist that settles upon your skin and your cloak like a refreshing dew. You reach out and touch the stone edge of the basin. It is wet and covered in a thin layer of soft green moss that feels like velvet against your fingertips. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the sheer volume of the water, a force of nature that has been perfectly contained and directed by human ingenuity. It is now 12 hours and 45 minutes into the day. You take a slow, deep breath of the damp ozonic air, feeling the stability of the brick arches above you. You are safe in this hidden sanctuary of engineering, a witness to the silent, liquid power that sustains the city. It is time for your primary administrative task at the water tower, the inspection of the lead pipe seals and the verification of the distribution pressure. You move toward the southern wall of the chamber, where the massive lead pipes, known as fistulae, exit the basin to descend into the city. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a heavy lead plummet attached to a cord of woven hemp. You also take out a small bronze scraper, its edge polished and sharp. You kneel by the first of the large pipes, observing the thick grey metal and the official stamps of the emperor and the local water magistrates. You run your fingers along the joints of the pipe, feeling for any irregularities in the lead soldering. You notice a white, brittle crust forming around the edges of the seals, the calcium carbonate deposits left behind by the mineral-rich water. You use your bronze scraper to gently remove a small section of this deposit. The sound a quiet, rhythmic clicking against the metal. You focus entirely on the texture of the lead and the resistance of the mineral buildup. 1 pipe, 2 pipes, 3 pipes. You repeat this inspection for the main channels, your movements remaining slow, clinical, and precise. You then lower the lead plummet into the water channel to measure the depth and the force of the flow, recording the results on your wax tablet. The scratching of your stylus is a grounding noise in the middle of the roaring water. You find a sense of professional pride in the accuracy of your measurements, a realization that your audit ensures the city remains hydrated and clean. You complete the inspection of the seals, finding the structural integrity of the system to be absolute, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you stow your tools. You stand and observe the intricate network of pipes as they branch out from the tower, each one marked with the names of the citizens whose villas they serve. You notice the rhythmic pulsing of the water as it moves through the system, a sound that is both mechanical and organic. The overflow from the basin is directed into a large stone channel that runs beneath the floor, designed to flush the city's streets and gutters with excess water. This system of constant flow is what keeps the basalt stones of Pompeii clean and the air fresh. You move to the small window of the tower and look down at the street below. You see a public fountain at the intersection of the Via di Nola, where a group of women are filling terracotta jars. The water splashes into the stone basin with a steady, musical cadence that reaches you even at this height. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the connectivity of the city, the way the tower at the summit is linked to every street and courtyard by these hidden arteries of lead. The sun is now beginning its slow descent from the meridian, and the light is turning a deep, rich gold. You take a moment to adjust your spectacles, wiping away the fine mist of the chamber to once again see the city with high-fidelity clarity. The world outside is a vibrant tapestry of activity, but here, in the heart of the Aqua Augusta, there is only the constant and predictable rush of the water. You feel a sense of profound and quiet safety in the permanence of this infrastructure, a feeling that as long as the water flows from the mountains, the city is secure. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the cool moisture in your lungs and the strength of the masonry around you. By 1 o'clock and 30 minutes in the afternoon, your audit of the Aqua Augusta is complete. You prepare to leave the cool, dark sanctuary of the tower for the humid social atmosphere of the public baths. You take a final look at the great circular basin, watching the water swirl in a slow and hypnotic vortex before it enters the pipes. The administrative record of the water pressure is now safely etched into your wax tablets, a permanent testament to the city's engineering health. You write out the final entries with a sense of somber and rhythmic achievement, noting the exact coordinates of the lead seals you have inspected. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that comes from seeing the lifeblood of Pompeii managed with such absolute precision. You step out from the tower and back into the brilliant sunlight of the high street. The heat is still intense, but you carry the cool memory of the water within you. You begin your descent toward the Stabian baths, the sound of your own footsteps providing a steady heartbeat as you move downward through the city. The transition is a quiet decision to move from the mastery of engineering toward the leisure of the community as the day continues its steady and majestic progression. You take a final, deep breath of the dry, warm air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history in the stones beneath your feet, and you prepare for the steam and the oil of the afternoon baths. You descend from the northern heights and enter the sprawling, majestic complex of the Stabian Baths, located at the intersection of the Via dell'Abbondanza and the Via Stabiana. It is now exactly 1 o'clock and 30 minutes in the afternoon. The transition from the dry, open heat of the street into the thick, humid atmosphere of the public sanctuary is profound. As you pass through the entrance, you find yourself in the palestra, a large open courtyard surrounded by elegant fluted columns. You observe the rhythmic movements of men engaged in wrestling and ball games upon the sandy soil, their skin glistening with a mixture of sweat and fine dust. The soundscape here is a complex layering of shouting voices, the rhythmic thud of feet on sand, and the distant constant splashing of water. You move toward the entrance of the bathing rooms, and as you step inside, the temperature begins to rise with a steady and humid persistence. The air is heavy and fragrant, carrying the scent of scented olive oil, cedarwood, and the sharp, clean aroma of the charcoal fires burning beneath the floors. You feel a sense of absolute safety within these thick, heat-retaining walls, a realization that this is a place of communal rest and physical renewal. You adjust your administrative satchel, feeling the leather warm against your hip, and you prepare to move into the depths of the heating system. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the engineering of comfort, a realization that the luxury of the baths is a direct result of invisible, mechanical labor. You move away from the social areas and descend a narrow set of stone stairs into the Praefurnium, the subterranean furnace room that serves as the heart of the heating system. The transition is sharp. The humid warmth of the baths is replaced by a fierce, dry heat that radiates from the massive, arched brick ovens. You observe the stokers as they rhythmically feed logs of dry olive wood into the glowing mouths of the furnaces. The sound is a constant, low-frequency roar of combustion, a deep and resonant pulse that you can feel in the soles of your feet. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the hyperhox system, where the hot air from these fires is drawn through the hollow spaces beneath the floors and up through ceramic flues in the walls. You reach out and touch the wall near one of the flues. The brick is incredibly hot, a thermal engine designed to warm the vast stone rooms above with absolute consistency. It is now 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the furnaces are at their peak output. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the mechanical order of the furnace room, a realization that the destructive power of fire has been perfectly tamed here. You take a slow, deep breath of the hot, dry air which smells of wood smoke and parched brick, feeling the stability of the arched ceilings above you. The inner life of the mission is one of methodical observation, a quiet decision to respect the labor that sustains the comfort of the city. It is time for your primary administrative task within the bathing complex, monitoring the charcoal supplies and verifying the efficiency of the high-cost flues. You move toward a large, dark alcove where the fuel for the evening watch is stored. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a small bronze measuring rod and your wax tablet. You are tasked with verifying that there is enough seasoned wood and charcoal to maintain the heat through the coming night. You begin to count the stacked bundles of wood, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. 1 bundle, 2 bundles, 3 bundles. You repeat this tally until you have accounted for the necessary volume of fuel. You then move to the wall flues, using a small handheld mirror to check for any obstructions or soot buildup that might impede the flow of hot air. 1 flue, 2 flues, 3 flues. The rhythmic clicking of your bronze tools against the brick is a grounding noise in the middle of the roaring furnaces. You focus entirely on the texture of the soot and the dry heat of the brickwork. The world above is a distant murmur of splashing water and conversation. Here, there is only the weight of the fuel and the precision of your audit. You find a sense of professional pride in the reliability of your records, a realization that your audit ensures the city's rest remains uninterrupted. You complete the inspection, finding the supplies to be more than sufficient, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you record the final mark in the green wax. You ascend from the furnace room and pass through the calidarium, the hottest room of the baths, where the steam is so thick that it creates a soft white veil over the high vaulted ceiling. You watch as a bather is massaged with scented oil, his skin then being scraped clean with a curved bronze strigil. The sound is a rhythmic and satisfying rasping of metal against skin, a process that removes the oil, sweat, and dust of the day. You move closer to the large, marble-lined hot pool, observing the steam rising in slow, hypnotic swirls toward the skylight. The air is exceptionally humid, carrying the scent of balsam and lavender, a fragrance that induces a state of deep and focused relaxation. You reach out and touch the marble edge of the pool. It is smooth, wet, and radiating a deep, penetrating warmth that eases the tension in your own muscles. It is now 2 hours and 30 minutes into the afternoon, and the light from the high windows is turning a deep, rich amber. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic peace in the sight of the bathers moving with such slow and effortless grace. You are safe in this humid sanctuary, a witness to the daily ritual of the body. You take a slow, deep breath of the fragrant steam, feeling it expand in your lungs and ground you in the physical reality of the city. The acoustics of the room catch the sound of water dripping from the ceiling, a melodic and constant cadence that provides a soundtrack to the tranquility. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, your audit of the Stabian baths reaches its conclusion. You move into the frigidarium, the cold room where the air is crisp and refreshing, providing a sharp and revitalizing contrast to the steam you have just left behind. You stand by the circular pool of cold water, watching the light reflect off the sapphire blue tiles at the bottom. The administrative record of the furnace efficiency and the fuel supplies is now safely etched into your wax tablets. You write out the final entries for parts 26 through 30 with a sense of somber and rhythmic achievement, noting the exact coordinates of the flues you have inspected. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that comes from seeing the social and mechanical heart of Pompeii operating with such absolute precision. You take a final look at the elegant frescoes of garden scenes that adorn the walls, feeling a sense of soft companionship with the people who seek refuge here. You adjust your administrative satchel, ensuring that your records are protected from the damp, and you prepare to leave the humid atmosphere of the baths for the opulent, private stillness of the House of the Faun. The transition is a quiet decision to move from the communal labor toward the refined beauty of the city's greatest villa as the day continues its steady and majestic progression. You take one last slow, deep breath of the cool, clean air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history in the stones beneath your feet, and you begin your walk toward the tranquility of the atrium. You step through the unassuming entrance of the House of the Faun, a private residence that occupies an entire city block, and you are immediately struck by the transition into absolute, refined stillness. It is now exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The roar of the baths and the bustle of the Via dell'Abbondanza fade into a distant, inconsequential murmur, replaced by the soft melodic splashing of a bronze fountain in the center of the atrium. You stand upon the threshold, your eyes adjusting to the elegant, muted light of the interior. The air here is exceptionally fresh and cool, carrying the scent of damp garden earth, blooming lilies, and the faint, clean aroma of beeswax used to polish the wood. You observe the vast open ceiling of the compluvium, which allows a vertical shaft of brilliant afternoon light to illuminate the shallow pool below. You reach out and touch the wall of the entryway. The plaster is smooth, cold, and painted with intricate patterns that mimic the most expensive marbles of the empire. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the architecture of the villa, a realization that every element of this space has been designed for harmony and contemplation. You adjust the strap of your administrative satchel, the leather making a soft, familiar creak in the silence. You take a slow, deep breath of the fragrant air, feeling the stability of the thick masonry walls that isolate the sanctuary from the outside world. The inner life of the mission is one of rhythmic focus, a quiet decision to embrace the beauty of this private world. You take up your journal, recording the first observations of the atrium with a steady and rhythmic hand, feeling the safety and stillness of your surroundings. You move further into the house, passing through the first peristyle garden where the boxwood hedges have been trimmed into perfect geometric forms. Your path leads you to the center of the villa, where the most famous treasure of Pompeii is located, the Alexander Mosaic. You stand at the edge of this massive floor decoration, witnessing a masterpiece of ancient artistry composed of over 1,500,000 tiny stones, or tesserae. You observe the incredible detail of the battle scene, where the figures of Alexander the Great and Darius III are captured in a moment of eternal, silent conflict. The texture of the floor is a complex and subtle mosaic of colors. Terracotta reds, deep blacks, and brilliant whites, all fitted together with such precision that the surface appears as smooth as a painting. You kneel down at the edge of the work, and you reach out a single finger to touch the cool, hard surface of the stones. Each tessera is no larger than a grain of wheat, and you find a sense of quiet fascination in the collective effort required to create such a vast and intricate image. It is exactly 3 hours and 30 minutes into the afternoon, and the light from the garden is striking the mosaic at a low angle, making the colors glow with a deep inner radiance. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the weight of the history and the art that resides within this house. You are safe in this quiet hall, a witness to the peak of the mosaicist's craft. It is time for your primary administrative task within the villa, the cleaning and inspection of the household's small bronze figures. You move toward a marble pedestal in the atrium where a small, exquisite statue of a dancing faun, the namesake of the house, is positioned. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a soft lint-free cloth and a small vial of fine olive oil. You take up the bronze figure, feeling its surprising weight and the cool metallic smoothness of its surface. You begin the work of polishing the bronze, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. You focus entirely on the texture of the metal and the way the light begins to reflect more brightly as the dust of the day is removed. You move the cloth in small circular motions, covering the delicate limbs and the expressive face of the figure. The sound is a soft, rhythmic hushing of fabric against bronze, a grounding noise in the middle of the silent house. 1 limb, 2 limbs, the torso. You repeat this process with a meticulous attention to detail, ensuring that the bronze retains its deep, lustrous patina. The world outside the villa is irrelevant. Here, there is only the weight of the statue and the precision of your care. You find a sense of professional pride in the preservation of this beauty, a realization that your audit extends to the protection of the city's artistic legacy. You complete the polishing, finding the figure to be in a state of perfect and shining readiness, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you return the cloth to your bag. You replace the dancing faun upon its pedestal and take a moment to observe the surrounding triclinium, the formal dining room where the evening's banquet is being prepared. You notice the low, elegant couches upholstered in rich purple-dyed wool and the small three-legged bronze tables that have been positioned with a rhythmic symmetry. The air here carries the faint, sweet scent of honey and roasted nuts as the kitchen servants begin the preliminary preparations for the feast. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic peace in the order of the household, a realization that the life of the elite is governed by the same predictable cycles as the life of the baker or the fuller. You take up your wax tablet and record the inventory of the silver skiffy, the ornate drinking cups that have been set out for the guests. Your stylus makes a soft rhythmic scratching sound as you mark each item in the green wax. 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups. You focus on the clarity of your marks and the accuracy of your tally. The sun is now beginning its slow descent toward the western horizon, and the shadows of the columns are stretching out across the mosaic floor like long, dark fingers. You take a slow, deep breath of the cooling air, feeling the structural strength of the villa and the permanence of the traditions it represents. The sanctuary of the House of the Faun provides a moment of profound stillness before you return to the more public areas of the city, and you find a sense of safety in the refined order of the private world. By 4 o'clock and 30 minutes in the afternoon, your audit of the House of the Faun is complete. You stand in the second peristyle garden, looking back toward the high, cool rooms of the interior one final time. The administrative record of the household inventory is now safely etched into your wax tablets, a permanent testament to the wealth and the taste of the owners. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that comes from seeing the most opulent private space in Pompeii operating with such quiet and absolute precision. You take a final look at the white marble statues that populate the garden, their silent forms glowing in the golden afternoon light. You adjust your administrative satchel, ensuring that your records are secure, and you prepare to leave the private stillness of the villa for the grounded, earthy atmosphere of the local Thermopolium. The transition is a quiet decision to move from the refined beauty of the elite toward the daily friction of the common street, as the day continues its steady and majestic progression toward the evening. You take one last, slow, deep breath of the air, which now smells of damp stone and wild lavender, and you begin your walk toward the vibrant energy of the food stalls, feeling the rhythmic strength of the basalt stones beneath your feet. You move from the silent, cool corridors of the villa back into the vibrant, low-frequency hum of the Via dell'Abbondanza. It is now exactly 4 o'clock and 30 minutes in the afternoon. The transition is a return to the grounded, earthy reality of the common street. You approach a Thermopolium, a street-side food stall that serves as the social kitchen for the city's laborers and residents. The atmosphere here is thick with the aroma of the afternoon meal, the smell of spicy wine, lentils stewed with leeks, and the sharp, salty scent of fried cheese. You observe the L-shaped counter, its front decorated with vibrant frescoes of hanging poultry and garden vegetables, designed to entice the hungry passerby. You reach out and touch the counter. The masonry is warm and solid, but the surface of the embedded terracotta jars, or dolia, is smooth and cool to the touch. These jars are filled with grains, dried fruits, and warm wine, acting as the city's pantry. You are a solitary observer in this space of daily nourishment, standing in a small alcove away from the gathering crowd. The soundscape is a rhythmic tapestry of clinking bronze coins, the scrape of wooden spoons against ceramic, and the low murmur of tired voices, sharing the news of the day. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the democratic nature of the stall, where every citizen can find a moment of sustenance. You adjust your administrative satchel, feeling the weight of the wax tablets, and you prepare to record the voices of the people as they are written upon the city's walls. You turn your attention to the exterior wall of the Thermopolium, which serves as a public canvas for the city's political and social life. It is time for your primary administrative task, the recording and verification of the newly painted programmata, the election slogans that have appeared overnight. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw your bronze stylus and a fresh wax tablet. The plaster of the wall is rough and sun-baked, providing a gritty contrast to the smooth marble of the forum. You observe the large, bold letters painted in bright red ochre, a color that seems to glow in the golden light of the late afternoon. You begin to transcribe the inscriptions, moving your eyes slowly across the Latin script. You record the names of the candidates for the office of aedile, along with the endorsements of the various trade guilds, the bakers, the fruit sellers, and even the neighbors who live nearby. One inscription, two inscriptions. You repeat this process for the length of the wall, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. The scratching of your stylus against the wax is a grounding noise in the middle of the street's bustle. You focus entirely on the legibility of the characters and the accuracy of your transcription. This record is an essential part of the city's political archive, and you find a sense of professional pride in its completion. You complete the final entry, finding the public record to be vibrant and diverse, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you smooth the wax with the flat end of your stylus. As you finish your recording, you take a moment to observe the smaller, more personal graffiti that populates the spaces between the official notices. You see the names of lovers, the tallies of gambling debts, and the humorous insults exchanged between rivals. These are the spontaneous, unedited voices of Pompeii, a record of the human spirit that is as permanent as the stone itself. You reach out and touch a small, etched image of a gladiator. The scratch is shallow but sharp, a tactile connection to the anonymous citizen who carved it. It is now 5 hours and 15 minutes into the afternoon, and the light is turning a deep, rich amber, casting long, dramatic shadows across the basalt streets. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic peace in the sight of these inscriptions, a realization that the city is alive with 1,000 different stories. You take a slow, deep breath of the air, which now smells of charcoal smoke and ripening olives, feeling the stability of the masonry walls that carry these messages. You are safe in this public sanctuary, a witness to the daily friction and the creative energy of the people. The sound of a distant flute player reaches you from a nearby courtyard, a melodic and constant cadence that provides a soundtrack to the evening's arrival. You find a sense of soft companionship with the city, a feeling that you are a part of its collective memory. The administrative layer of your mission reaches a state of high priority as you begin a routine check of the food stall's standard measures. You move behind the counter with the permission of the owner to inspect the bronze ladles and the ceramic measuring cups used for the wine and grain. You reach for the tactile interface of your measuring instruments, moving your fingers with a slow and practiced grace as you verify the volume of the Hemina jars. The sound of the bronze hitting the ceramic is a soft, rhythmic clinking, a sound of human industry in the middle of the social hour. It is exactly 17 hours and 40 minutes into the day, and the sky is beginning to transition into a deep, vibrant amber as the sun approaches the western horizon. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the mechanical reliability of your internal systems, a micro-emotion of peace that stems from the discipline you maintain within the sanctuary. You take a moment to perform a routine diagnostic on the currency exchange rates, finding them stable and in accordance with the morning's audit at the forum. The air you breathe is recycled and crisp, though it carries a faint ozonic scent from the electrical systems working at their peak efficiency. You take up your stylus and record the measurement accuracy in your manual log, your handwriting remaining elegant and firm upon the vellum page. The inner life of the mission is one of methodical observation, a quiet decision to ensure that your sanctuary remains a focused environment for the study of the city's commerce. The 8th narrative cluster of your journey reaches its conclusion as the final light of the sun begins to fade, leaving the Thermopolium in a state of tranquil and amber-lit stillness. You have documented the food stalls and the political voices of the common street, and the path ahead now leads towards the cultural heights of the large theatre. The administrative record for Group 8 is now complete, as you finalize the graffiti logs and the measurement charts in your manual journal. You write out the final entries for parts 36 through 40 with a sense of somber and rhythmic achievement, noting the exact coordinates where the social energy of the market begins to transition into the artistic quiet of the theatre district. It is exactly 23 hours and 59 minutes into the 8th group of the mission, and the cosmic clock of the surface world remains a distant and irrelevant concept. You take a final, deep breath of the recycled air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history as a stabilizing and calming force. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest as the vessel begins its slow and buoyant movement toward the north. The soundscape is now a complex symphony of evening insects and the distant low-frequency rustle of the city as it prepares for the night. You adjust the lighting in the cabin, setting the amber displays to a soft and restful level, and you prepare for the beginning of the 9th day, where you will explore the cooling marble tiers and the ancient masks of the theatre. The inner life of the chronicler is one of absolute stillness, a realization that the street has been your sanctuary, and now the mysterious and silent stones of the stage await your arrival in the evening light. You leave the vibrant energy of the food stalls behind and climb the gentle incline toward the triangular forum, where the massive semicircular curve of the large theatre is carved into the natural slope of the hill. It is now exactly 6 o'clock in the evening. The air has begun to lose its sharp midday bite, transitioning into a soft and cooling Mediterranean breeze that carries the scent of dry grass and sun-baked earth. As you step into the top tier of the theatre, the transition to this vast open-air space is immediate. The silence here is majestic, a sharp contrast to the crowded streets you have just traversed. You observe the tiered rows of seating, or cavea, crafted from white limestone and grey marble, which can accommodate 5,000 citizens. You reach out and touch the stone of the upper wall. It is still warm from the day's sun, but its surface is smooth and cooling rapidly in the shadows. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the architectural scale of the theatre, a realization that this space was built to connect the human voice with the open sky. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air move through the empty corridors. The soundscape is dominated by the distant, rhythmic chirping of evening crickets and the soft rustle of the wind through the nearby cypress trees. You are a solitary figure at the summit of the stage, protected by the massive, curved embrace of the masonry. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the geometry of the space, a realization that every stone was placed to carry a whisper to the highest row. You take up your manual journal, recording the first observations of the theatre district with a steady and rhythmic hand. You descend the marble stairs to the lower tiers, where the elite of the city take their seats upon the wide, comfortable benches of the Ima Cavea. The acoustics here are incredible. You can hear the softest rustle of your own woolen cloak as it brushes against the stone. You stand in the center of the orchestra, the semicircular space before the stage, and you look up at the towering skene fronds, the permanent architectural backdrop decorated with marble columns and statues of the gods. You observe the intricate carvings on the stage wall, seeing the figures of Apollo and the Muses frozen in their eternal, silent poses. The texture of the floor beneath your sandals is a polished, dark marble that reflects the deep orange light of the setting sun. It is exactly 6 hours and 45 minutes into the evening, and the sky is a brilliant, cloudless indigo. You reach for the administrative controls of your external imaging array, an administrative necessity to document the condition of the marble friezes for the Municipal Archive. The sound inside the cabin is a soft, rhythmic clicking of the data relays, a sound of scientific order in the middle of the prehistoric theatre. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic empathy in the sight, a realization that the citizens who gathered here shared the same fundamental love for story and song. The air you breathe is crisp and rich with the aroma of damp stone and the faint scent of wood smoke from a nearby courtyard fire. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history as a stabilizing and calming force. It is time for your primary administrative task within the theatre, the inspection of the velarium, the massive linen sunshade awning that is suspended over the seating area. You move toward the high exterior wall of the theatre, where the wooden masts that support the ropes are anchored into stone sockets. You reach out and touch the heavy braided hemp of the primary suspension rope. It is thick, rough, and incredibly strong, having been weathered by the salt air of the bay. You use your hands to test the tension of the lines, feeling the rhythmic vibration as the wind pulls against the fabric high above. 1 rope, 2 ropes, 3 ropes. You repeat this inspection for the main anchor points, your movements remaining slow, clinical, and precise. You focus entirely on the texture of the fiber and the stability of the wooden masts. The world below is a distant murmur of the city settling into the evening. Here, there is only the weight of the awning and the precision of your audit. You find a sense of professional pride in the accuracy of your measurements, a realization that your work ensures the comfort and the safety of the audience. The sound of the hemp creaking against the stone is a grounding and rhythmic noise in the middle of the quiet theatre. You take up your stylus and record the tension levels in your wax tablet, your handwriting remaining elegant and firm. The inner life of the mission is one of methodical discipline, a quiet decision to ensure that the sanctuary of the theatre remains in perfect and organized readiness. You move away from the rigging and enter the shaded corridors beneath the stage, where the masks and the props for the evening's pantomime are stored. The air here is cool and carries the faint, dry scent of seasoned wood, plaster, and the mineral pigments used to paint the theatrical masks. You observe a row of these masks resting on a wooden shelf, their faces carved into exaggerated expressions of tragedy and comedy. You reach out and touch a comedy mask crafted from lightweight wood and linen. The surface is smooth and painted in vibrant shades of terracotta and white. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the human capacity for transformation, the way a simple mask can change the identity of the actor. It is exactly 7 hours and 15 minutes into the evening, and the light from the high windows is fading into a soft lavender glow. You take a moment to adjust the internal humidity controls of your sanctuary as the evening air is becoming noticeably cooler. The sound inside the cabin is a soft, rhythmic whirring of the internal fans, a domestic comfort that anchors you to the present moment. You find a sense of quiet stability in the order of the prop room, a realization that the traditions of the stage provide a persistent refuge for the spirit. The air you breathe is recycled and crisp, though it carries a faint, sweet scent of warm metal and sterile ozone. You take up your journal and record the inventory of the masks, noting the precise condition of each piece with a steady and rhythmic hand. The inner life of the chronicler is one of absolute stillness, a quiet decision to embrace the majestic history of the art as you move toward the gladiatorial grounds. The ninth narrative cluster of your journey reaches its conclusion as the final light of the sun vanishes behind the distant hills of Sorrento, leaving the large theatre in a state of tranquil and starlit stillness. You have documented the cooling marble tiers and the tension of the massive awning ropes, and the path ahead now leads toward the rugged and disciplined atmosphere of the gladiator barracks. The administrative record for Group 9 is now complete as you finalize the rigging logs and the mask distribution charts in your manual journal. You write out the final entries for parts 41 through 45 with a sense of somber and rhythmic achievement, noting the exact coordinates where the artistic quiet of the theatre begins to transition into the sharp, metallic energy of the training grounds. It is exactly 23 hours and 59 minutes into the ninth group of the mission, and the cosmic clock of the surface world remains a distant and irrelevant concept. You take a final deep breath of the recycled air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history as a stabilizing and calming force. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest as the vessel begins its slow and buoyant movement toward the east. The soundscape is now a complex symphony of night winds whispering through the marble columns and the distant low-frequency rustle of the city in the cool evening breeze. You adjust the lighting in the cabin, setting the amber displays to a soft and restful level, and you prepare for the beginning of the 10th day, where you will explore the sharpened iron and the leather straps of the elite fighters. The inner life of the chronicler is one of absolute stillness, a realization that the theatre has been your sanctuary, and now the mysterious and silent stones of the barracks await your arrival. You leave the ethereal silence of the theatre and walk a short distance to the east, entering the walled enclosure of the gladiator barracks. It is now exactly 7 o'clock and 30 minutes in the evening. The transition is sharp and visceral, The airy, artistic atmosphere of the stage is replaced by a grounded, masculine energy of iron, leather, and grit. You stand in the center of the large rectangular courtyard, which is surrounded by a two-story colonnade of thick, Doric columns. The air here is noticeably different, carrying the sharp metallic tang of cold iron mixed with the earthy scent of dry sand and the musky aroma of horses in the nearby stables. You observe the rhythmic movements of a few remaining fighters as they complete their final drills, their wooden practice swords, or roods, striking the straw-filled training posts with a series of dull, resonant thuds. The light is fading rapidly now, and the barracks are illuminated by the flickering orange glow of oil lamps mounted to the stone pillars. You reach out and touch the surface of one of the columns. It is rough and cool, the plaster having been worn away by years of contact with armor and sweat. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the discipline of this place, a realization that every action within these walls is governed by a strict and unwavering code. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the weight of the evening air as a stabilizing force. You are a solitary witness to the final preparations of the city's elite, and you find a sense of rhythmic peace in the mechanical order of their routine. You move into the armory, a long, narrow room where the offensive and defensive equipment of the gladiators is stored with military precision. The air inside is crisp and sterile, smelling of olive oil used to prevent rust and the deep, rich scent of tanned leather. You observe the rows of heavy helmets, or galeae, their polished bronze surfaces reflecting the lamplight with a shimmering golden radiance. Nearby, the large rectangular shields known as scuta are stacked against the wall, their painted surfaces depicting the fierce symbols of eagles and lightning bolts. You reach out and touch the edge of a gladius, a short, double-edged sword. The metal is cold and incredibly smooth, the edge having been honed to a clinical sharpness. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the weight of the equipment, a realization that these tools are the primary technology of the arena. It is exactly 8 o'clock in the evening, and the silence of the armory is a sharp contrast to the activity of the courtyard. You reach for the controls of your administrative scanner, an administrative necessity to document the integrity of the iron for the municipal records. The sound inside the cabin is a soft rhythmic clicking of the data relays, a sound of scientific order in the middle of the training grounds. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic empathy in the sight, a realization that the men who use these tools view them as extensions of their own bodies. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the structural strength of your sanctuary as you observe the silent and powerful tools of the trade. It is time for your primary administrative task within the barracks, the inspection of the leather straps and the sharpened edges of the iron swords. You move toward a long wooden workbench where several sets of armor have been laid out for your review. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a small bronze calipers and your wax tablet. You take up a heavy leather belt used to secure a manica or arm guard, and you begin the work of checking the strength and the suppleness of the material. You run your fingers along the grain of the leather, feeling for any cracks or weaknesses in the hide. You then use your calipers to measure the thickness of the iron plates, ensuring they meet the required standards for protection. 1 strap, 2 straps, 1 iron plate, 2 iron plate. You repeat this inspection for the equipment of exactly 10 different fighters, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. You focus entirely on the tactile sensation of the leather and the cold weight of the iron. The world outside the barracks is a distant murmur of the city settling into the night. Here, there is only the precision of your audit and the reliability of the gear. You find a sense of professional pride in the accuracy of your measurements, a realization that your work ensures the fighters are properly equipped for the coming games. The sound of the whetstone on steel, a rhythmic and sharp percussive hiss, reaches you from the courtyard, providing a soundtrack to your labor. You take up your stylus and record the equipment status in your wax tablet, your handwriting remaining elegant and firm. As you finish your inspection, you take a moment to observe the stables at the far end of the courtyard. where the horses used in the chariot races are being fed. You notice the rhythmic swaying of the animals as they eat, the sound of their teeth grinding the grain, a deep and satisfying crunch in the quiet air. The smell here is a potent mixture of fresh hay, warm animal musk, and the clean scent of the timber stalls. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic peace in the sight of the horses, a realization that the life of the barracks is as much about the care of the animals as it is about the training of the men. You reach out and touch the wooden gate of the stable. It is rough and seasoned, the texture providing a grounding connection to the physical reality of the city. It is now 8 hours and 45 minutes into the evening, and the sky is a deep, starlit indigo. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the stability of the barracks, a feeling that as long as the discipline is maintained, the city of Pompeii remains secure. The air inside your sanctuary remains sterile and cool, providing a focused environment for your final observations of the training grounds. You take up your journal and record the population density of the stables, noting the precise coordinates of the horses with a steady and rhythmic hand. The inner life of the chronicler is one of absolute stillness, a quiet decision to embrace the majestic history of the elite as you prepare for the transition to the vineyards. The 10th narrative cluster of your journey reaches its conclusion as the final lamps in the courtyard are extinguished, leaving the gladiator barracks in a state of tranquil and starlit stillness. You have documented the sharpened iron and the leather straps of the elite fighters, and the path ahead now leads toward the sprawling vineyards and the mystical frescoes of the Villa of the Mysteries. The administrative record for Group 10 is now complete, as you finalize the equipment logs and the stable distribution charts in your manual journal. You write out the final entries for parts 46 through 50 with a sense of somber and rhythmic achievement, noting the exact coordinates where the disciplined atmosphere of the barracks begins to transition into the quiet, rural expansion of the outskirts. It is exactly 23 hours and 59 minutes into the 10th group of the mission, and the cosmic clock of the surface world remains a distant and irrelevant concept. You take a final deep breath of the recycled air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history as a stabilizing and calming force. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest as the vessel begins its slow and buoyant movement toward the west. The soundscape is now a complex symphony of night insects and the distant low-frequency rustle of the savanna grass in the cool evening breeze. You adjust the lighting in the cabin, setting the amber displays to a soft and restful level, and you prepare for the beginning of the 11th day, where you will explore the wine presses and the secret rituals of the outskirts. The inner life of the chronicler is one of absolute stillness, a realization that the barracks have been your sanctuary, and now the mysterious and silent stones of the villa await your arrival. You leave the disciplined walls of the barracks behind and walk toward the city's northwestern fringe, passing through the Herculaneum Gate. The transition from the dense urban grid of Pompeii to the sprawling rural landscape of the outskirts is profound. It is now exactly 9 o'clock in the evening. You follow a paved road lined with cypress trees and the silent, grand monuments of the necropolis until you reach the Villa of the Mysteries. This suburban estate is a massive, two-story structure that commands a panoramic view of the dark, shimmering sea and the distant peak of the mountain. The air here is noticeably fresher, losing the metallic tang of the barracks and replacing it with the sweet, intoxicating scent of fermenting grapes and the earthy fragrance of wet garden soil. You reach out and touch the exterior wall of the villa. The plaster is cool and smooth, reflecting the pale, silvery light of a full moon. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the isolation of this estate, a realization that the life of the countryside follows a slower and more rhythmic pulse than the city. You adjust the strap of your administrative satchel, the leather feeling soft against your hip. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air expand in your lungs and ground you in the present moment. You are a solitary witness to the final evening of the harvest season, and you find a sense of rhythmic peace in the mechanical order of the villa's operation. You enter the industrial wing of the villa, where the large timber wine press or torculum is located. The atmosphere here is thick and heavy with the potent, acidic aroma of crushed grapes and the woody scent of the seasoned oak beams. You observe the massive wooden lever, weighted by a heavy stone block, as it applies a slow and constant pressure to the fruit. The sound is a series of deep, rhythmic groans from the wood and the steady melodic trickling of the juice as it flows into the collection basins. The floor is made of a dark, non-slip mortar that is stained a deep royal purple by the seasonal labor. You reach out and touch the primary timber of the press. It is rough, sturdy, and vibrates with the tension of the weight. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the engineering of the press, a realization that this mechanical power is the primary engine of the villa's wealth. It is exactly 9 hours and 30 minutes into the evening, and the silence of the room is punctuated only by the heartbeat of the press. You reach for the controls of your administrative scanner, an administrative necessity to document the condition of the timber for the municipal records. You find a sense of quiet, rhythmic empathy in the sight, a realization that the production of wine is a cycle of labor that connects the earth to the table. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the stability of the arched ceiling above you. It is time for your primary administrative task within the villa, the verification of the wine depth and the inspection of the fermentation vats. You move toward the cella vinaria, a large, partially underground room where hundreds of terracotta jars, or dolia, are embedded into the floor to keep the wine at a constant temperature. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a long, polished wooden measuring rod and your wax tablet. You kneel by the first of the massive jars, observing the dark, bubbling surface of the liquid as it undergoes the mysterious transformation into wine. You lower your measuring rod into the vat, feeling the slight resistance of the fluid and the cold, smooth surface of the terracotta bottom. 1 vat, 2 vats, 3 vats. You repeat this inspection for exactly 12 of the primary fermentation jars, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. You focus entirely on the depth of the liquid and the steady bubbling sound of the fermentation. The world outside the villa is a distant murmur of the night wind. Here, there is only the weight of the rods and the precision of your audit. You find a sense of professional pride in the accuracy of your measurements, a realization that your work ensures the city's vintage is preserved. The scratching of your stylus against the wax is a grounding noise in the middle of the silent room. You take up your stylus and record the volume levels in your wax tablet, your handwriting remaining elegant and firm. You leave the industrial wing and move into the most famous room of the villa, the megalographia, where a series of life-sized frescoes depict a secret, mystical ritual. You stand in the center of the room, and you are immediately struck by the transition to this silent and powerful space. The walls are covered in a vibrant, deep red background, the famous Pompeian red, upon which a series of 29 figures are painted in a continuous narrative. You observe the intense expressions of the participants and the incredible detail of their robes and their gestures. The texture of the wall is incredibly smooth and polished, providing a sharp and refreshing contrast to the rough wood of the wine press. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the human capacity for mystery, the way a private room can hold the secrets of a community. It is exactly 10 hours and 15 minutes into the evening, and the pale moonlight is entering through the high windows, making the figures appear to move in the soft, flickering shadows. You take a moment to adjust the internal lighting of your sanctuary, as the room is becoming noticeably darker. You find a sense of quiet stability in the presence of the frescoes, a realization that the traditions of the mysteries provide a persistent refuge for the spirit. The air you breathe is recycled and crisp, though it carries a faint, sweet scent of warm wax and sterile ozone. You take up your journal and record the pigment density of the frescoes, noting the precise condition of the figures with a steady and rhythmic hand. The 11th narrative cluster of your journey reaches its conclusion as the final sounds of the wine press cease, leaving the Villa of the Mysteries in a state of tranquil, and starlit stillness. You have documented the fermentation of the evening wine and the mystical figures of the secret ritual, and the path ahead now leads toward the final watchtower on the basalt walls. The administrative record for Group 11 is now complete, as you finalize the wine production logs and the fresco preservation charts in your manual journal. You write out the final entries for parts 51 through 55 with a sense of somber and rhythmic achievement, noting the exact coordinates where the rural quiet of the villa begins to transition into the final military vigil of the city. It is exactly 23 hours and 59 minutes into the 11th group of the mission, and the cosmic clock of the surface world remains a distant and irrelevant concept. You take a final, deep breath of the recycled air, feeling the weight of the 832 years of history as a stabilizing and calming force. You feel a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest as the vessel begins its slow and buoyant movement toward the final gate. The soundscape is now a complex symphony of the sea hitting the foundations of the city and the distant low-frequency rustle of the night wind through the vineyards. You adjust the lighting in the cabin, setting the amber displays to a soft and restful level, and you prepare for the beginning of the 12th day, where you will perform the final patrol of the basalt walls and sign the record of the watch. You climb the final set of stone stairs to the summit of the northern watchtower, situated on the massive basalt fortifications near the Tower of Mercury. It is exactly midnight. The transition to this high exposed position is immediate and atmospheric. The air is cold and sharp, carrying the scent of the deep sea and the faint, lingering smell of wood smoke from the dying hearths of the city below. You stand upon the crenellated ramparts, looking out over the dark, silent expanse of Pompeii. The city is a sea of shadows, illuminated only by the pale, silvery light of the moon and the occasional flickering glow of a lone oil lamp in a distant window. You reach out and touch the stone of the battlements. The basalt is freezing and rough, its volcanic texture providing a grounding and stable connection to the earth. You find a sense of profound and quiet safety in the elevation, a realization that you are the final guardian of the day. You take a slow, deep breath of the night air, feeling the coldness expand in your lungs and settle your mind. The soundscape is dominated by the rhythmic, distant shush of the waves hitting the city's foundations and the soft, constant whistle of the wind through the stone notches. You are a solitary figure at the edge of the world, and you find a sense of rhythmic peace in the mechanical order of the watch. You take up your manual journal, recording the first observations of the midnight hour with a steady and rhythmic hand, feeling the absolute stillness of the sleeping city. It is time for your primary administrative task of the final watch, the maintenance of the municipal signaling instruments and the inspection of the watchfire. You move toward a stone alcove where a large polished bronze trumpet or tuba is kept for emergency signals. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw a soft, lint-free cloth and a small vial of fine oil. You take up the heavy instrument, feeling its weight and the cold, metallic smoothness of the bronze in your hands. You begin the work of wiping away the salt spray and the dust of the night, your movements remaining slow, rhythmic, and clinical. You focus entirely on the texture of the metal and the way the moonlight reflects off the polished surface. One turn of the cloth, 2 turns. You move the fabric in small, circular motions, covering the bell and the mouthpiece with a meticulous attention to detail. The sound is a soft, rhythmic hushing of fabric against bronze, a grounding noise in the middle of the silent tower. You then turn your attention to the small charcoal brazier that provides light and warmth to the watch station. You use a bronze poker to stir the embers, the sound a quiet, rhythmic clicking against the iron. You find a sense of professional pride in the readiness of your tools, a realization that your care ensures the city's security. You complete the polishing, finding the instrument to be in a state of perfect and shining readiness, and you feel a micro-emotion of satisfaction as you return the cloth to your bag. You move along the top of the basalt wall, performing a final patrol of the western ramparts that overlook the Villa of the Mysteries and the sea. It is now precisely 0 hours and 30 minutes into the new day. You observe the dark silhouette of Mount Vesuvius against the starlit sky. It is a massive, silent presence that seems to watch over the city with a stationary and stoic patience. You notice a small, faint plume of white steam rising from the summit, but it appears as nothing more than a stray cloud caught in the moonlight. You find a sense of quiet fascination in the permanence of the mountain, a realization that it has stood as the backdrop to every human story in this valley. The air here is exceptionally crisp, carrying the scent of wild thyme and the mineral aroma of the volcanic stone. You reach out and touch a section of the wall where the masonry is particularly thick. You feel the incredible stability of the construction, a force of engineering that has withstood the weight of centuries. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air move through the empty corridors of the wall. The sound of the sea is louder here, a constant and melodic cadence that provides a soundtrack to your transit. You are safe in this high sanctuary, a witness to the intersection of human effort and natural majesty. You take up your stylus and record the visual status of the mountain and the sea in your wax tablet, your handwriting remaining elegant and firm upon the surface. You return to the gatehouse and prepare for the final administrative act of your 12-cluster expedition, the signing of the municipal watchlog and the sealing of the day's records. You move to a heavy oak desk illuminated by a single steady oil lamp. The air inside the gatehouse is warm and smells of olive oil, seasoned wood, and the dry, earthy scent of old parchment. You reach into your leather satchel and withdraw your primary wax tablet and a small bronze signet ring. You begin to review the records you have kept throughout the day, from the dawn at the Porta Marina to the midnight at the tower. You move your eyes slowly across the Latin script, checking the tallies of the bread, the water pressure measurements, and the inventory of the villa. You find a sense of profound and quiet satisfaction in the completeness of the record, a realization that every minute of the city's life has been captured with academic precision. You take up your stylus and sign your name at the bottom of the final tablet, the rhythmic scratching of the bronze nib providing a grounding and final noise. You then melt a small bead of red beeswax over the signature and press your signet ring into the soft, warm material. The sound of the metal hitting the wax is a soft, muffled thud. One seal, two seals. You repeat this for the 3 primary tablets of the watch. The world outside is a silent blue-black void. Here there is only the weight of the records and the peace of a task completed. The final hour of the 12th day arrives as you stand once more upon the ramparts, witnessing the absolute and majestic stillness of Pompeii in the hour before the dawn. You have documented the heat of the bakeries, the brilliance of the forum, the humidity of the baths, and the refined beauty of the villas, and now the journey reaches its natural and inevitable conclusion. The administrative record for Group 12 is now complete, and the final archival transmission of your narrative is ready to be sealed within the memory of the stone. You reach for the final toggle of your awareness, feeling the cool, polished metal of your internal focus beneath your thoughts. It is exactly 23 hours and 59 minutes into the final day of the mission, and the cosmic clock has completed its 12-cluster revolution. You close your eyes, and a silent, crystalline pulse of information carries the 2-hour record of Pompeii through the depths of time and space, back to the world of the future. The city remains below you, vibrant and alive in its sleep, unaware that its image has been preserved forever. You lean back against the cold basalt wall, feeling a sense of heavy, rhythmic peace, a micro-emotion of rest that fills the small space of your sanctuary. The air is cool and fresh, a final gift of the night. You find a sense of transcendent peace in the realization that your journey has been a testament to the eternal and changing heart of the world. The silence of the night is not a void, but a fullness of history, a state of absolute rest at the end of the long path. You simply are. You are the chronicler of Pompeii, the witness to the stone and the light, and the traveler who found peace in the shadows of the past. The record is sealed, the message is sent, and the journey is complete.